be as courteous as possible and have a one-on-one or a conversation to figure out who's doing this on this lot, because these are not actors and actresses that are in these videos and images that we know came from here.
So they're being, so yeah, I guess I have quite a few questions about it, but I don't know, how much you can divulge, but I'm curious, you're saying there's images being uploaded or images being downloaded?
Everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. The answer you have all been waiting for and what you are expecting and learning and wanting to know about with Josh Duggar sentencing. We have been waiting for months and months and months, actually it's only been 2, to find out, one, when sentencing is, and if there was going to be, what kind of investigation there was going to be, and what would the recommendation be. Well, on Friday, his probation officer actually filed the pre-sentencing investigation, and the report was complete. So unfortunately, the report was filed under seal, and so we won't know in all detail what is actually included and what they found. They have a couple weeks now to respond, but I can tell you what the sentencing report would include and kind of give you an idea of what you might be able to expect when and if we ever hear what's in it. This is going to help them figure out, prosecutors, what the recommended sentence will be for Josh and outline any issues that Josh might have that would increase or decrease his sentence. So what I did was I went on to the United States Probation Pretrial Services for the Western District of Arkansas, and I looked up what a pre-sentence investigation is. And it says that after a defendant is either pleads guilty or is convicted, they meet with a probation officer, and then the meeting, they will conduct an interview with the defendant to gather the following information: the family history, community ties, educational background, employment history, physical health, mental and emotional health, history of substance abuse and financial conditions, and willingness to accept responsibility for his or her offenses. It says that during the pre-sentence investigation, a PO will interview other persons who can provide pertinent information, including the prosecutor, law enforcement agents, people impacted by the person, any treatment facilities that he's attended, and family members, associates, and employers. They will also review numerous documents. They may include court dockets, indictments, history of other offenses, counseling records, scholastic records, employment records, and financial records. If possible, they do what's called a home visit. But in his case, he was actually already behind bars. But they could have still done a home visit where they go to Josh's home and they could interview the family and assess his living conditions and suitability for potential of supervision conditions, such as location monitoring, to determine whether or not he would be not getting a sentence of jail, which we know is not going to happen. Basically, what it says is that the responsibility of the PO assigned to a pre-sentence investigation is to assist the court by verifying, evaluating, interpreting the information gathered, and to present the information to the court in an organized, objective pre-sentence report. Another important part of the preparation of a pre-sentence report involves the probation officer's investigation into offenses of conviction, including the defendant's involvement, any similar or uncharged conduct that's the same, similar, and the impact of that offense on the people that he did these things to, and the sentencing options under the law, which are the guidelines. Then that will help the court put together appropriate and fair sentencing used by the PO later assigned to supervise the person, like Josh. It's also disclosed to the defendant, the defense attorney, and the prosecutors, who have the opportunity to make objections or seek changes to the pre-sentence report through a formal process. Basically, what they're going to put together is the assessment of what if she were to meet with Josh and he's remorseful, she could give him an adjustment for time off and say he is remorseful, he accepts his responsibility, and we'll give him time for reduction of taking responsibility. If he's not taking responsibility, he wouldn't get that adjustment. If in the response of doing the investigation, they found that he was involved in any other activity, she would have to disclose that to the court and let the U.S. attorneys know if there was any other activity that he was involved in that was not legal. And that could also entail other investigations, other charges. It could also be a factor into any sentencing. They can use the information that they find to determine if the sentence should be greater than what is actually like the mandatory like maximum, or less than, to determine the sentence. So it's a complex process that she goes through to just assess Josh and his risk level and where he should fall for his sentence. Then the prosecutors look at that, the defense looks at that, and then they make objections, and then they sort of come together. But the prosecutors will also put in a request. They'll do a motion and they'll say, we would like X amount of years. And the defense will also file something and they'll say, we want this many years. And again, if there are charges or if there's anything that they find that Josh was involved in, that would that could be in addition, like new charges, that would come out of this investigation as well. I was looking at this in the state of Arkansas. There was a guy, and I'm doing this off the top of my head if I don't remember, if I trying to remember this, but I feel like it was in the summer of 2021. There was a guy that was picked up for the very similar things that Josh was. And during the pre-sentencing investigation, they actually found that he had done things to his kids. And at that time, when they found that out, they added more charges and he had to actually do another trial. And they also charged his wife, which was because she apparently knew and didn't stop it. So this would include his kids' evaluations. Will we ever know about it? No, not at all. So this will remain sealed, especially anything that includes information about children. And then Josh's, mental health and his medical stuff is private and confidential. So we will hear in court when the prosecutors talk about the crimes and they talk about the victims. We will hear about it in court for the sentencing, but not in the pretrial sentencing, the report. They also posted a victim impact statement, which was included as an attachment, which was again sealed. So some people were already speculating on who this victim, the impact statement came from. It's not my place to speculate. It would be someone impacted by what he was charged with in this specific case. And there are databases that the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children use to go through the specific charges of crimes related to the type of stuff that Josh was involved in. And if there is a known victim that has made themselves known, like this is these videos of me when I was a child, this is me, then that child who might be an adult now can provide an impact statement to the court about what they've experienced related to the release and the continuing sharing of their very horrible pictures or videos online. They can also seek financial restitution from the court for what happened, again, of someone sharing and downloading what was a traumatic and illegal experience in their lives. So we will not know the identities of any of these people because it's confidential and they are protected, and there is a protection order in this case for all of the victims. So we will not know, and it's none of our business. That's kind of what I've just been telling everyone. It would not be one of his siblings, because his siblings in this case are not considered the victims because they're not part of the charged indictment. I hope that makes sense. It doesn't mean that they weren't his victims in the past, but not for this case. So Josh's pre-sentencing report is done, and now they have until February 25th to respond or object to the report. And then Josh's attorneys also have until the 25th to respond to the government's motion or response to their motion for a new trial and an acquittal. There still is not a hearing date scheduled for his sentencing. The transcripts from his trial are set to be released on April 18th. So I'm hoping that means that there will be a sentencing date at or around that timeline. But right now, there is no sentencing date listed. Everything listed right now in his hearings and deadlines are related to the release of transcripts, which the bulk of transcripts will be released on the 18th of April. So hopeful that he'll be sentenced before April 18th. So would this mean that you would find out about other charges if he was involved in other activities? Maybe. For instance, Josh is found to have done things to his own kids. If the federal government does not typically charge those types of crimes unless it was a federal crime. And so if the kids were not part of content that he made, or if he wasn't taking them across state lines or trafficking them, then it would be a state case. If it involved the other aspects, it would be a federal case. So how they would evaluate what Josh did or did not do, that would be dependent upon what happened to the kids, if anything did, and then it would either go to the state or the federal level for another trial. It would not be a part of this trial. And that does happen in these types of cases after the evaluation of the children has been done. But again, we will not know unless, for instance, more charges were filed against Josh. All right, so I don't know what this means for the number of years. I don't know what this means because it's still it's confidential, but at least that should give you a better understanding of what the pre-sentence report and investigation entails and how that might set the stage for the future. So what are your thoughts about this? Are you interested to find out what the recommended amount of years will be by the probation officer and by the court? And what do you think the defense is going to say? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.